Hi, it's Jen from Shabby Fabrics with another fun DIY project. You've been seeing some scrunchie videos coming from us. Well, I also have seen the scrunchies that have these tails. So cute with the ponytails, and you have a little bit of fabric hanging down the back. This is from the Moody Bloom collection. I have this in the white. We'll be doing the black together today. That's going to be a lot of fun. Of course, there's a download as always. Grab that. 2 pages this time. But let's just dive right into that. You'll want a piece of fabric to make your scrunchie first. We'll start with that. That's a 3x16. If you need a bigger scrunchie, just make your fabric longer, maybe a 3x17. The first thing that we will do is we will turn that edge under, one edge under, by a 1/2 inch, and we're going to use a hot ruler to help us with that measurement. Hot rulers are great because I can iron on them, whereas with an acrylic ruler, I can't do that or I'll damage that ruler. So I don't have to guess where that 1/2 inch is. That hot ruler tells me right where that's at, and we'll give that a good press. And again, just on one side, not on both, as you might have expected. Some really cool ways this will be assembled. By the way, we've done another video, 2 other videos on scrunchies, just a plain scrunchie and also a scrunchie with a bow. So this is kind of the third in the series, the one with the tails. You might want to check those out as well. With your strip, you'll go right sides together and press all the way down. And if you've watched those other videos, it's the same assembly every time to make the scrunchie to start with. And that step is to sew a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now you can certainly use some patchwork pins if you're worried about that fabric shifting at all on you, and just put those in, and you'll just sew a nice 1/4 inch all the way down. And I've done that ahead of time just to save us some time. So there's our little 1/2 inch turn under, and then the 1/4 inch seam. Once you have that, our next step will be to go ahead and turn that through. And I mentioned in these last videos, you know, there's all kinds of techniques. You kind of have to finagle it. And it could take a lot of time, be a little bit frustrating, but that's why someone, and I'm so glad they did, invented a product called Turn It All. And this is meant to do this very same thing, is to just take these, narrow channels of fabric and turn them through quickly. This is really helpful if you do anything with dolls, those narrow arms and legs. It's difficult to turn that through. So you've got 3 different sizes. The barrel, you use the size of barrel, the biggest that you can use for your project. So let's open that up. Each of those has a barrel and kind of a pushing tool. And I will use the largest one that we can, along with this one. And I'll put these others aside for now, since those would be used for a different project. So the first thing that we will do is simply feed this through our opening. Doesn't matter which side you feed it through, and we'll just push the fabric on there to the point where we have this little bit on this end. This is where we now use the tool that pushes to just push that all the way through, and just like that, it's completely turned through, and that's incredible. Just in literally a matter of seconds, that is already out and ready now for the next step of our project. So I'll put those aside. So, there's certain tools where I think, I don't know if that tool is really that great. Yes, that tool is that great, as you saw. I'm using my point turner right now to get that kind of tuck out, my seam. And I want to just have that really nice and smooth because I'm going to go iron that. Let's get that pushed out. On the end that has that little tuck under, you might need to just retuck that under. That step will be coming in shortly. Now keep in mind, those 2 ends are open, of course. So when you sew that 1/4 inch seam allowance, be sure, obviously, that you don't close those ends as you might have expected you would do. So let's give that a good press all the way down. For our next step, we'll need to be inserting our elastic. That's another one where I've kind of had to jerry-rig something. Maybe I've used a paper clip, trying to clip that onto my elastic, trying to feed it through. There's a tool that I use in quilting called the purple thing, and I really use it to keep points down as the pressure foot's approaching so I can keep my fingers away and keep them safe. inside the purple thing is a slot here, and that's going to be our really handy friend today for our elastic. We'll simply feed that through our slot and work it down into that notch so it's good and secure. I'll be using a Wonder Clip today as really my third hand, and you'll see why that's going to be an important little help right now. And as I push that in, that tail is going to want to disappear here in just a moment. So I need to anchor that. Let's use a Wonder Clip to help us out with that. I might even use a couple of them. I just don't want that to keep pulling through. We'll feed that in. There's our end, and we can pop that out. So you can see what a great little tool that is. Now our goal is to bring those two ends together. Let me pull the fabric back so you can see that. Our goal is to overlap them by about 1/4 of an inch and zigzag on top of that. Now, what I found when I did that, and I'm trying to hold them steady and not have them shift away, is I found it a little bit difficult. You've got a couple options here. One would be that you don't even worry about the zigzag. You instead cut your elastic longer, maybe to 8 or 9 inches. You simply tie a knot real good and tight and then trim the ends. That's your first option, and really very simple. Your other option is something that I discovered that we had in the sewing room. It's a product made by Bone. It's a double-sided, basically tape. It is incredibly sticky. So let me go ahead and just demonstrate that for you. We'll do that method today. Just put about 1/4 of an inch on there. We'll trim that. This tape is incredibly sticky. If you're looking for just a good double-sided tape that really acts like a third hand, that's it. See that shiny? That is my tape. Now I'm going to put those two ends together, and I'm going to give a good squeeze, and I literally cannot pull this apart right now. That's how sticky this is. All right, we're going to head over to the sewing machine. I'm going to set my stitch on a zigzag, and we'll go ahead and zigzag across here, and then we'll show you how to finish up your scrunchie. So I'm going to start off with a little bit of a starter strip. I just want to get my machine going. And then we will move our fabric out of the way. I want you to be able to see this. I'm just going to come in right after it's done with the fabric. And you can see that is very secure at this point. That's not going to come apart on us. Now, while we have the camera good and close, this is the side that has that tuck. Which we'll get in the light so you can see it better. This is the side with the raw edge. Let's clean off any extra threads. This side that has the raw edge will just feed into the edge that has the tuck. I'm going to send my machine back to a straight stitch. We'll just get that under there. If you need to use the purple thing to get that fed in there, that tool, that simple little plastic, purple plastic tool is so handy for so many things. We'll just feed that in, just like that. We'll come to our machine, we'll do a straight stitch, and we'll of course be sewing across the elastic, which further secures the elastic. And just like that, we'll spread our ruffles out, our little bunches. We have a scrunchie. So that's pretty all by itself. But if we want to add the tails, that's going to be the second part of our pattern. So let's go to the second page. So you'll see your pattern piece there. You have a couple options. You can go ahead and just cut that out, and you'll just have that here, and you will be taking note there. In fact, let me grab the fabric. Really 1/4 of a yard with this style of scrunchie is plenty. We would cut the fabric at the fold And the 1/2 of that fabric would be used to cut your 3 by 16. And then the other part of your fabric, as you can see here, if you're folding it here and here, again, what that's going to do is actually create 1 piece, 2 piece, so you could cut this out all at once. If you choose to just cut the pattern piece out of this, you could of course download this multiple times if you're going to be making more than one of these. Or one option that I like to do when I know I'm going to be making a lot of these, maybe you're going to be doing a fun craft fair, by all means you're welcome to do things like that. We certainly want to encourage fun DIY and creativity. If you're going to be making a bunch of these, you might want to consider grabbing a piece of the heavy duty freezer paper. This is the Cut Right. I love this. Anytime I'm using a template that I know I'm going to be doing again and again, and I just simply place it over top and traced and cut that out. What's great about these, in fact, I'll go ahead and use this one. What I love about this is the freezer paper actually irons down to the fabric, but it's only a temporary adhesion. Isn't that fantastic? So this is not coming off of this, but I could peel it away. It's a wonderful option. So now, if you're going to choose the freezer paper, I don't even need to worry about pinning my piece down because it's not moving. So that's really handy. I really prefer that method personally. Now you can just cut that out either with a rotary cutter or scissors. Once you have that done, you'll have 2 pieces that will look just like this, and you'll place them right side together. Notice how we have the leave open for turning. So I've done that, and I've already even trimmed some off. I'm just trying to save a little bit of time on video here. Notice I reinforced in the beginning and the end. I did sew the 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I trimmed a little bit of this away so I get some cleaner points. Once you have that sewn together, that's when we'll really be needing the point turner to turn these out. I won't be able to get into that with my fingers. So the easiest way to get those points out is to just kind of roll the fabric and start the process, and now the point turner will really come into play, and you're shooting for that opening. So you're going to push those corners into the opening. You just have to finesse that just a little bit, and once you get that started, it'll just start coming through for you. So I'll just keep turning that out. That point turner reaches places that my fingers simply don't fit into. And then we'll repeat the same down here on this end. Once you have that done, of course, we want to press everything out. If you need to get there with any additional pushing those out so they have those nice crisp corners, again, this tool is invaluable for that, made for that. Just going to give a quick press. Since we sewed with a 1/4 inch seam allowance, oh, by the way, I'm going to back up a bit. If you do trim off a little bit of the seam allowance, make sure in the opening you don't do that. Leave the full 1/4 because you need to have something to turn inward. So I'm just going to turn both of those inward, just like that. And I'm going to go to that sewing machine. I will just go ahead and close that opening, just the opening portion, with an 1/8 inch seam allowance. If you're inclined to top stitch all the way around with an 1/8 inch seam allowance, you're absolutely, of course, it's your project, do whatever you'd like. But I think I will go ahead and just close my opening with that touch of that 1/8 inch. Now, remember when we made our scrunchie, we had that opening and we had that seam. Let me point that out to you right quick. Right there is the perfect spot to go ahead and feed this through, and we will tie there because it's going to hide that seam. This fabric is absolutely incredible. As I'm working with this, of course, as you're seeing, I'm making this in real time with you. We haven't seen it in the black before. This is a stunning collection from Moda. And I just, no matter which side you see, it actually has two different completely, different scenes of fabric. I love that so much. This is so pretty. Maybe this is one I'll be using myself. So you can see how fun it is and easy to make a scrunchie. And then if you want that kind of flair to have the tails, it doesn't take too much long to add that detail as well. And hey, one day you want to have just the scrunchie, one day you want to add the tails, you can simply take them off. So thanks for letting me show you this fun DIY project. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already done that, and I'll see you again soon.